President Bola Ahmed Tinubu that the time for people to be playing politics with the lives of Nigerians is over. Therefore, if Mr. President could declare a state of emergency in Rivers State that had less crisis, what is stopping Mr. President from declaring a state of emergency in a place like Benue and a few other states that are already at war?
Well, all right. Speaking about spiritual, reactions have trailed the visit by Pastor Tunde Bakare, a former presidential aspirant to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu at his residence in Lagos. Bakare stated after the meeting that his lifelong vision is to see a Nigeria that works, emphasizing that he shared his thoughts on this with the president. He also expressed optimism that God would guide President Tinubu to help the nation bounce back and leave an indelible mark. Let's take a look.
Well, it's not about just reservations. It's about how the country will go well. My personal vision is to see a nation that walks in my lifetime. And those things I've discussed with Mr. President. They're not hidden things, but I've learned that when you discuss with the person in charge, you leave it with him to do whatsoever he wills with what you have suggested. So I've had a private conversation with Mr. President, and I'm glad that he received me well, and I trust that God will help our nation. What transpired in my discussion with him stays with me and with him. God guiding him and giving him wisdom will help this nation not to slide or go down the drain, but to bounce back so that it can leave a mark that cannot be erased.
Well, all right. Well, this meeting comes just weeks after Bakare publicly criticized the president, urging him to stop playing God and embrace humility in governance. Bakare accused Tinubu's administration of steering Nigeria adrift, descending into tyranny, and demonstrating a brazen abuse of power. He specifically pointed to the National Assembly becoming a haven for legislative rascality and a rubber stamp for the executive rather than upholding constitutional governance. Let's take a look before we take some reactions.
Mr. President, it is through your influence that the Nigerian National Assembly has become a haven for legislative rascality. Mr. President, it's under your watch that the National Assembly has become an extension of the executive, grossly violating the principles of separation of powers and rubber stamping the whims and caprices of your office, all while singing the international anthem of psychoviolence on your mandate, we shall stand. I say, Mr. President, Nigeria is too delicate for this kind of politics. If this state capture was what you meant by a Milokan, it is an anticlimax that can only be counterproductive at the end. I urge you, Mr. President, to think deeply and reflect on these words. No man is wise enough, nor good enough to be trusted with unlimited power. Mr. President, please stop playing God.
All right, you know, I had to play this video side by side with the visit because obviously that's what caused the reaction, because I believe this comment was, you know, back in April, just a few weeks ago. And of course, Nigerians have reacted to the visit and his statement there where he made after he visited the president yesterday. Let me take this tweet from JJ, who wrote, "Everyone is just fighting for his personal interest and pocket. Nigeria lacks leaders with conviction and personal integrity. They say one thing today, tomorrow you see them doing other things, e.g. Wike Bwala, Reno, Shehu Sani, and now Bakare. It's indeed pathetic, and you'll understand why. But you know, I mean, after he's a man of God, after that meeting with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu at his residence, I believe, you know, he's now adopted a more, you know, conciliatory note and all of that. Bimbai, our favorite Naija wife. Go ahead.
You know, he's been extremely vocal even since May 2023 about how he felt about the election.
Yes.
He expressed how he thought it wasn't a free and fair election, how he felt that he didn't agree with President Tinubu's values. So this has been consistent from him. Well, since he won't tell us what happened in the exchange, we now have to speculate and assume. It would have been nice for him to just give us a summary of some of the key points addressed in that exchange, because his body language shows us that he didn't go in with the same fiery opposition spirit that we've seen him express over time. Again, it's all assumption, but I would have hoped. See, I don't. There's nothing wrong with opposition leaders going to see the president, but what we want is opposition leaders who go and stand on their own principles, who stand on values, who stand their ground when they go and meet the president. Not that they go there, then they all come out sheepishly, smiling, okay, well, things are going to work out. Of course, it's important to be optimistic and believe that things will work out. But the point I'm making is that we need strong, bold opposition who are ready to challenge and tackle these issues in a very diplomatic and democratic way when they go and interface with these leaders. But the body language we're seeing, since again, he's not disclosing what was discussed, is a little bit disappointing, especially because over the past few days, we've seen Sim Fubara, we've seen Governor Adeleke. Remember, I shared a video with you where some Osun State APC chieftains were saying that, we're warning Governor Adeleke that the APC ticket is not for sale. You can't pay President Tinubu for it. So we were laughing. we were laughing about it.
Because obviously we took the story of Adeleke yesterday and he clearly detailed that he was a visit for Salah. And obviously there was a statement that was released yesterday from, you know, the Osun's spokesman saying that Adeleke was not defective.
But of course, the questions around that citizens will ask when they see these images is, what are the undertones of these conversations? What is being planned? Is Tinubu, the master strategist, bringing everybody under his net so that there will be no opposition in 2027?
Okay. Pastor Tunde Bakare is not opposition. He's a prophet of God. He's a man of faith. And the interaction between, you know, pastors or prophets and kings it's a well-established tradition. If you go very quickly to your Bible and you open to 1 Kings chapter 18, you will see the story there of King Ahab and his relationship with Prophet Elijah. Prophet Elijah was a man of faith, and he was very critical of King Ahab. And he usually gave predictions, and he always told him, and he was very consistent. After that fashion, Pastor Tunde Bakare of the Citadel Community Church, Global Citadel Community Church, gives these sermons where he looks at the state of the nation. The last one he did was 45 days ago, where he was very critical, as we have seen, of the Tinubu administration. So he was not speaking as an opposition figure. He was speaking as a man of faith, making prophetic pronouncements. But that does not stop him from, you know, going to visit the president in the spirit of the season. He has said, well, he does not want to disclose what they discuss. It stays with him. It stays with President Tinubu himself. But whatever message that he has delivered, he summarizes that his vision is that of a Nigeria that works. And that's what all of us are asking for.
Yeah.
We want a Nigeria that works, whether in the Northeast, or in Benue, or in Imo, or in Umukwata. Nigeria must work.
For the first time. Of course.
Nigeria must work for all of us, whether we're in the rural or the urban areas. So, you know, I assume that we shouldn't read too many minutes. That does not stop Pastor Bakare from giving another State of the Nation address and criticizing the president, because the job of these religious leaders is to speak truth to power, to be prophetic. The ones I don't know about are the ones who go beyond their limits and begin to comment on 5G,
Yeah.
comment on HIV/AIDS, comment on COVID-19, areas in which they don't have any competence.
Right. Fantastic.
But, it's okay.
Well said. Well, speaking about spiritual... one second.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tinubu Bakare is also an opposition.
I was going to say...
He's an aspirant.
Yeah, I was
ran
just going to say.
against President Tinubu in the last election. He was vice presidential candidate with President Muhammadu Buhari. He's an aspirant, so he's opposing
at that point,
to...
They were in the same party.
But he's opposing to... Did he run with him? He ran against him now.
They were in the same party.
So he's also an opposition leader.
No,
he's
he
right.
didn't- he
Vimba, I think
didn't-
you are right.
He didn't
to
run
say
against
that.
Tinubu. He didn't run.
In the primaries of this last election.
No, he didn't run against Tinubu.
In the primaries of this last
not
election.
against Tinubu.
So Tinubu Bakare was not an aspiration.
He withdrew from it.
But he
They
was
were
running
political
against
associates
Tinubu.
in the past.
But it doesn't
But the
matter. So he's
primary
opposing
thing
to him now.
We know him for is his evangelism.
Yeah.
But he's also in
His job as a
politics.
pastor.
He's also in politics.
No, he's not
Absolutely.
in politics now.
I was an aspirant in the last presidential
he's
election.
not in
He wasn't in
politics.
politics. Now wow.
All right.
His main job is as a pastor.
A politician.
I guess the sum up of this conversation is that, yes, he's a spiritual leader, and he's been quite critical. Only recently he was critical with the Tinubu administration. And I guess that is why she, described him as an opposition leader. And of course, he was in politics as well. Of Catholic priests under the Charismatic Bishops' Conference of Nigeria has appealed to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to declare a state of emergency in Benue State following the killing of 43 people in Gewa West and Apa local government areas. The President General of the coalition, Leonard Kawas, during a press conference on Wednesday, denounced the violence, warning that the ongoing bloodshed and displacement have reached catastrophic levels. Let's take a look.
Refugee camps are swelling, internally displaced people are multiplying. And we are saying to our president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, that the time for people to be playing politics with the lives of Nigerians is over. Therefore, if Mr. President could declare a state of emergency in Rivers State that had less crisis, what is stopping Mr. President from declaring a state of emergency in a place like Benue and a few other states that are already at war?
Well, all right. Speaking about spiritual leaders, speaking truth to power, your thoughts on the bishop right there?
This is, with due respect, this is speaking rubbish to power.
Yeah.
With due respect to the bishop. This is speaking absolute bunkum to power. A bishop endorsing a constitutional aberration. What's this country becoming? A bishop endorsing a constitutional aberration. So now they declare state of emergency. State of emergency now 3 for 5 naira. Abi.
Well, he believes that there is already war in Benue. That's what he says.
So declare state of emergency. So removing a fellow priest. And see, I will hold brief.
He didn't say remove, declare. Not
if
remove.
You declare state of emergency, you are removing the governor now.
That didn't happen during Jonathan.
You are removing the governor with the President Tinubu assets.
Oh, well, that didn't happen during the Jonathan
with
era.
The president, I'm not saying Jonathan. Tinubu is not Jonathan. They are two different human beings.
Okay.
Even the spelling of their name is different. Jonathan, Tinubu is different. With the President Tinubu assets.
Leave me alone this morning.
My I'm serious.
Go ahead. If I couldn't hold it, go ahead. Don't worry. Go ahead.
With the President Tinubu has said, if he declares a state of emergency, it means he's removing the leader. What they are driving at is to remove the leader. I'm going to hold brief. See, you might say anything you want to say against me this morning. He's a member of the Catholic Church. That's what shocks me the most. I'm not saying he shouldn't be held accountable, but remember also they were against him even dabbling into politics at first, in the very start. So is the solution now the state of emergency? Please, with due respect, Dr. Abatti served in that Jonathan's government. The state of emergency they declared in Borno, did it solve all the insecurity problem? Are they not still bombing Borno till dates? And please, we have and that's why I asked the question of other state actors and militia leaders. It's a multifaceted angle of what is happening in in Benue State today. There's also a political dimension to it. Look at the squabble going on in the APC as we speak. The governor is dealing with a lot. I'm not saying he cannot do better. He can do a whole lot better. But declaring a state of emergency is not the solution. How can we fix it? Yesterday, Dr. Abatti was talking about how the military chief was in Maiduguri. Let us see how we can fight it with intelligence, with troops on ground, and most importantly, like you were saying, Vimbai, fixing the environmental degradation there. Because you see, we do not talk about the role climate change also plays in all of this. The fight and squabble for land resource. And also economic empowerment. The reason why you are having most of this strife and kidnapping and banditry and this insecurity is because there's little economic empowerment across board in all these areas. Nigerians are poor in a country where over 130 million lives on pittance per day. You will have all of this struggle. And that's the thing we should see. In the 80s, Oji, after the Wizkid riot, there was a report that was released about the fact that there's a lot of poverty and insecurity and squabble and strife. I'm talking about the 80s when dollar to naira, when it was still 1 naira to the dollar. That if we do not fix those problems, we'll constantly have the problems of insecurity we're having. And it's happening today. Let's call it speed. Now, bishops should not be the ones fanning the ember of discord by calling for state of emergency now.
Okay,
Bishop Blackman now.
Let me add a footnote to this. Now, when you talk about state of emergency, the operative rule is under Section 305 of the 1999 Constitution. It's the legality of it that is at issue. That Section 305 of the 1999 Constitution does not give the President of Nigeria the powers to abdicate the democratic structures in any particular state where a state of emergency is declared, when there is an apparent breakdown of law and order and a gazette approved by the National Assembly, has been declared and a proclamation is made. The problem with Rivers is that the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu did something unconstitutional. This is the argument, by collapsing, removing, the governor, the State House of Assembly. Otherwise, the Constitution makes a provision under Section 305. Now, I do not agree with the charismatic Bishops' Conference saying that they want a state of emergency. We just spoke with Omale Ogamatu from Benue State, and he was saying that there is no complete breakdown of law and order in Benue State that will warrant anybody asking for a state of emergency. He immediately dismissed that. And number three is the fact that these charismatic Catholic bishops, they were even complaining about the persecution of Christians in Nigeria. I think that that's the most substantive point. Is there a persecution of Nigerians, of Christians in Nigeria, particularly in the Middle Belt? President Tinubu has said again and again, in fact, when he had audience with the Pope, that his administration respects the rights of Christians of all faiths, and that his administration will do everything to defend the rights of persons to have the freedom